Hi, I'm back from a long hiatus, and today I'll be talking to you guys about love.
Still isn't over.
The salt was fine today. Chili was.
Don't ask me if I know anything about it. Partly because I feel like that I'm qualified to do so, and it's definitely not because I have a false sense of confidence in talking about it. And it's definitely not because I have some sort of insecurities I need to work on myself first. Fun. You know, I've been taking this channel on a quite depressive and an existentialist route these past couple of videos. So I thought, why wouldn't we make a turn? But before we do, I would like to put one more scary thought inside your head before we completely move on from the existentialism and the dread. Arguably, the most scariest thing I could and probably will ever be talking about. But today, I'll be taking a little break from those hardships we intentionally put ourselves through as a means of entertainment, and instead talk about the struggle we go through in our daily lives. And to be frank, I do believe that romance should be constituted as its own subgenre of horror. Tragedy, loss, betrayal, every single one of those instances is as scary as the last horror movie flick you've watched. Here, let me give you a choice. Would you rather be haunted by an all-knowing specter who you barely know, or be damaged, betrayed, and broken beyond belief by someone who you thought you will marry? Choose your poison. But again, I'm stopping myself here, and I'm trying to show a lighter side to the channel. And what could be more lighter and safer than a good old solid, reliable, dependable, predictable, and to be honest, not quite the blockbusters, but also not quite sleeper hits as well. They just seem to be always there. Well, it started out as a rom-com video, but the more I worked on it, the more I talked about it, it slowly evolved into my general feelings on romance in films. So yeah, that's what I'm going along with. And no, the state of my haircut, new glasses, and new background had nothing to do with how long I have been making this video. Listen, usually I memorize my scripts, but this video took too long to make and I don't have any more time to memorize it. So I'm just gonna look off screen and say my script out loud. Thank you. Best thing about watching a rom-com is that you definitely don't need to invest too much of your time to watch it. Hell, you could happen across a rom-com in its second or third act and you wouldn't really miss a beat. But if you do somehow find yourself to intentionally put on a rom-com from the start, and you at least catch whatever the wants and needs of the leads are, and if you have a massive crush on one of them said leads, which there are plenty of, then you might as well have just been a fish, because you just got hooked, line and sinker, baby. Force, hold the goddamn line. But I'm not going to be strictly talking about rom-coms, because there are lots of instances of romantic moments that happens in other genres that give us the same warm, guzzly feeling a good old, solid, reliable rom-com gives us. And listen, I know and I'm completely aware that not all people really look for or even yearn for romantic relationships. But most of the time, people do have a natural inclination to just show affection towards other people. Well, that's a lie. Showing affection is an obligation. Receiving affection is a necessity. In its very layman's terms, people just have a really strong urge to bone each other. Look, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, so basically, I'll be talking about tropes that happens in rom-coms and see if there's any intersection, and what kinds of movies I would recommend watching them. Enemies to lovers. Opposites attract, as people say. The allure that a completely opposite version of yourself is somehow tantalizing to people. They bicker and banter, and before long, cover themselves in smooches and kisses. The tension from a rivalry oftentimes leads them to have the need to break it with some sort of affectionate climax. And the trope I always seen being done, and overdone to be honest, is a story that always starts out with a bet, where either the popular or non-popular group, who for some reason despises each other or feels superior, would lose a bet, or a challenge, or a punishment, where they would find themselves to be dating the other group. You know, good old classic segregation. And usually what would entail is that the jig would be up.
My bet?
And the truth is, they already fall in love with each other. Here's some movies that I can recommend that would fit this trope. You've Got Mail, which is Tom Hanks' film, which is almost always an automatic feel-good type of film with him in it. 10 Things I Hate About You. Rest in peace, Heath, but oh my god, did you absolutely kill your musical number. She's All That. Purely in this recommendation because the iconic
My bet?
scene. 3 Idiots, a really funny Bollywood flick sprinkled with a little bit of romance, with the Mr. Bean of India himself, Amir Khan. Forced proximity! I don't know why, it just sounds more ominous than it actually is. Listen, close your eyes and imagine this. Think about being alone in an elevator, and suddenly it stops, and the most drop-dead, attractive person to you walks in. And by some miracle, the elevator stops, and now you're forced to be in the proximity of each other. And that is the trope in general, being stuck with each other. And I haven't really mentioned the shape that was behind me before, because I do think that these tropes overlap. Because if you were forced into being in proximity of each other, it doesn't necessarily mean you would get along. It could evolve into an enemy to lover kind of trope, or the childhood sweetheart kind of trope, or the destiny trope, who knows? Anything could happen. Oh, hey, sorry. Still waiting for that elevator moment to happen to me. So, I guess while we wait, here's a list of movies that would fit into this trope nicely. The Terminal. What? 2 Tom Hanks movies and you're complaining? Come on, he's Tom Hanks. Man, go ahead and watch Tom Hanks be a foreigner who got stuck in an airport for 2 hours. Leap Year. A cute movie set in Wales. Yeah. I'm only joking. It's got Amy Adams in it. So what could go wrong with Amy Adams and a little dash of Welsh tradition? Near, far away. Isn't it crazy actually that film is in the top 5 most grossing film of all time? Real weird. And of course, Castaway. On the Moon. I gotta be honest, I can't force myself and put another Tom Hanks movie into the list. I'm sorry. Well, I mean I could. Castaway on the Moon is a Korean movie about a guy who got stuck in a deserted island after a failed suicide attempt. And a woman who watches over him. Not a Tom Hanks movie, but still a wildly unique and a great one. The Cute Meet Cute. Imagine this, the classic jock type at a school accidentally bumps the nerdy girl who for some reason was holding a binder's worth of loose papers. Or a boy and a girl was forced into doing karaoke on a New Year's Eve party. But it could really be anything of the like. Bumping into each other's coffee at a cafe, bumping into each other causing them to fall on top of each other, bumping... Well, most of it involves bumping. But, you know, papers and coffees aren't the only thing they're going to be bumping into. If you know what I mean. By any unusual circumstance, the reason they would meet is through various cute and niche interactions. The more niche, the more memorable, I would say. And creating niche inside jokes that only the couple would understand is really everyone's dream. Sorry, I just hate the idea of people finding happiness through their cute love stories. But here are the movies which made my heart flutter and wish similar things would happen to me. Amelie. Or Emily, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. But oh my god, do I love this movie. The colors, the characters, and their designs? And the music with the harpsichord, accordion, vibraphone, and general French vibe. Oh god, just go watch this movie. The Lunchbox. A novel idea inspired by the Dabawala system in Mumbai, which is a system that delivers lunchboxes to office workers from their wives at home. And what happens if a lonely housewife has her delivery be sent into another lonely guy accidentally? In the Mood for Love. Listen, I had to give a Wong Kar-wai movie a chance considering Everything Everywhere took direct inspiration from it. And let me just say something. Tony Leung? Oh my god, it broke me. And My Sassy Girl. I'll be straight, me and my friends watched this together and completely clown on the first act of this film. It was just so cheesy with the guy being such a loser and the girl being so annoying to a point that we were going to stop. But then the second act happened. And then the third act happened. And then I understood. Childhood sweethearts. At the time, you could never imagine yourself being in a relationship with them. But situations change, times change. Maybe the bond you created over your childhood together made you into a better, or worse, version of yourself. And the most rational thing that the bond created was for you to come together 10 years later. Or let's be more clear here. And that your once ugly duckling friend turned and glowed the fuck up and became a complete bombshell. It happens. Timing and circumstance are usually the main. Did you really think I wouldn't notice the camera no focusing? I did at first, and that's why the lighting's a bit different, because I'm a dumbass. Timing and circumstances are usually the main reason they didn't end up together in the first place. It's like one of those ancient proverbs from the philosophers from the Age of Enlightenment used to say. Time is nature's best cockblocker. Childhood sweethearts. We all had one, and most of us had completely forgotten about them, while others still cling on to useless hope. Totally unrelated, these are the movies that remind me of that specific feeling the most. Cinema Paradiso, a beautifully shot film set in Little Sicily in Italy. With a thick nostalgia and a warm lens of childhood seen through the entire movie, I gotta at least drop an Oscar bait type of film into this list somehow, right? The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, an anime, believe it or not, which tells the story of a girl who travels back through time and suffers its consequences. Flip! I just have a lot of memories involved with the story, so please just watch it. And I also had a crush with Julie in this movie because she reminds me a lot of Anna Sophia Robb in The Bridge to Terror. Yeah, I forgot about that movie. I think it also fits in the list. Moonrise Kingdom. Wes Anderson's go at childhood innocence and naivete, distinct with the style of being led by literal children, to which all did a great job. Especially Redford with his iconic line, "I can't stop myself from thinking about..."
You know, you shouldn't be friends with him.
Why not?
Because he's crazy.
Maybe you just don't know him.
Actually, we know him a lot better than you. He's emotionally disturbed because his family died. Nick will be time up.
The Story of Yonosuke, a Japanese film. Alright, I'll be honest. When this movie started, I thought that it was going to be another My Sassy Girl situation. But no man, this movie instead starts out with a very charming, though naive young Yonosuke. And for some reason, this story just really reminds me of Haruki Murakami's portrayal of nostalgia. Though obviously, not so much of the insane levels of existential loneliness and weird mysticism. Though I hope I will get to talk about one day. This movie really captures the warmth that Yonosuke brought to the wide array of characters that he met with, which really touched me, you know, and especially the ending. Okay, on 3, I want you guys to say what examples of a forbidden couple would be. Okay, you ready? 1, 2, 3. Kovui and Kiara from Lion King 2. What? No? There are literally almost hundreds of these stories that you could come across. Usually these stories also overlap with other tropes, such as enemies to lovers. Because, you know, segregation. is probably the main reason people hate each other in the first place. As so I've been told. You know what's quite ironic about the human race? Forbidding someone to do something only makes us want to do it more. And especially when it comes to love. And of course, I gotta get this out of the way, but Romeo and Juliet. Oh my god, there are so many movies that would fit into this trope that basically it should constitute as its own genre. Don't believe me? Yeah, here are the lists. Romeo and Juliet, 1936. Both West Side Story. Romeo and Juliet, 1968. Romeo and Juliet with Babyface DiCaprio in it. Warm Bodies, aka Romeo and Juliet with zombies. And a film performance from Broadway with Orlando Bloom? But Romeo and Juliet aren't really the only forbidden love stories. Like Water for Chocolate has elements of Romeo and Juliet in it, but it's set in Mexico and has magical realism settings in it, so it's worth giving a go. And of course, Her. It's less about the actual forbidden love, but it's more about the impossibility of it. It's such a fantastic look at how love that seems impossible, and it in all actuality is, would be another terrifying part of whatever future we decide to cut ourselves with whatever the hell is going on with AI. Woo! Technology, right? Second chance love. Somebody go hide the middle-aged parents who are going through a messy divorce, because I don't think they would appreciate watching this part. People drift apart from each other, and that's totally normal. What usually is the problem is how far apart they were before they realized they were not even in the same boat in the first place. Circumstances, situations, and serendipity usually plays a part in making these matches in the first place. And listen, there's nothing to say you can hit it off instantly in the first place and just continue having a relationship for 20 to 30 years. But that is truly only a dime in the dozen. And hindsight is 2020, and that harmonious relationship you started out with, you can really see through that the serendipity that brought you together was just through sheer coincidence. But what if you were given a second chance? Boom, this story's for you. Okay, so hide these movies away from a couple who is going through a messy breakup or the parents who are dying inside while they are trying to sign their divorce papers. It's second chance love, baby. About Time. It's a time-traveling story where the men in Domhnall Gleeson's family can travel back in time. Patriarchy much? Jeez. But the movie is fantastic and makes me feel things, so give it a shot. Give me an out. Or your name. I know, again with the anime recommendations, I'm filling up a quota here. Probably a bad recommendation considering it's like the most famous anime movie that doesn't really involve technology, social unrest, or like some sort of meta commentary against humanity itself. But that doesn't mean it's not wholly original and heartbreakingly painful at some points, and obviously drop dead gorgeous in other parts in the story. Definitely recommend. Crazy Stupid Love. Call me crazy. But this is definitely Ryan Gosling's funniest performance in my eyes.
No!
Yeah, come on.
No! No! Deep breath.
Never mind, I take that back. And I know that Julianne Moore's character is being a total biatch, but come on, this scene is cinema. The African Doctor, a French film about a family of Afro-French descendants who lives in a very stereotypical European outskirt village. Which means all of them are huge racists. But in all honesty, I really dig the performance from Mark Zinga, and it is truly heartwarming. The Before trilogy. Does the story promote cheating? Yeah, I guess, sure. But did they do it in a justifiably realistic approach to the story? Absolutely. So, I'll give it a slide. Anyways, aku setidaknya harus masukin beberapa film-film Indonesia ke dalam list ini karena, to my surprise, ada beberapa yang aku suka ternyata. Film-film romance yang aku tonton dulu itu memang terasa tua, jujur aja, sekarang. Seperti Heart yang aku tonton di tahun 2006 itu. Semua setting, alur, karakter, dan terutama dialog itu terasa seperti suatu teater drama gitu. Which makes sense karena basically itu memang sinetron di layar lebar aja gitu. Oh iya, dan adegan saat ceweknya ngejar-ngejar cowoknya pakai jeep itu, ya itu nempel banget di kepalaku. Tapi film-film kayak Cek Toko Sebelah, Imperfect, Susah Sinyal, intinya film-filmnya Ernest Prakasa, ini aku anggap sebagai tahap modernisasi film-film romance Indonesia itu. Which makes sense, karena Ernest itu bukan komedian pertama yang berhasil transisi atau beralih dari drama atau kadang-kadang horor. Dan aku bisa lihat itu di Ernest. Setiap kali dia lagi interview atau lagi bicarain film-filmnya, tatapan mata sinis dan jeliknya itu loh, yang harus dimiliki seorang komedian supaya mereka bisa transisi dari komedi dan ke macam-macam drama yang nanti mereka mau adaptasiin itu. Atau dalam kasus ini, romance. And of course, filmnya lucu. Surprise, surprise. Seorang komedian buat film komedi. Terus ada juga 2 garis biru. Film pertama yang untuk aku benar-benar memposisikan film romance yang juga sekaligus membahas isu penting seperti perhamilan di umur anak SMA. Man, yeah, what a movie. And of course, setelah udah ngebuat film yang punya ending perfect itu, mereka harus ngebuat sequel. And of course, ada Yang Hilang Dalam Cinta, series pertama yang aku masukin ke dalam video ini. Karena aku benar-benar kaget sama kagum akan originalitas dan kualitas dari ceritanya. Cerita yang juga sekaligus bisa menancapkan pesan yang brilian akan domestic abuse dan victim-victim yang terasa tidak terlihat. Tapi aku punya pertanyaan serius. Apa seriesnya beneran harus 12 episode? Cause come on, it drags a bit too much. Kita cerita tentang hari ini, itu juga buat aku kaget pada awalnya dengan portrayal realistis drama internal keluarga. Even though again, filmnya tuh masih terlalu lama. Dan dialognya tuh way over the top. Lebih dari setting realistis yang mereka udah set di awalnya itu loh. Of course masih ada banyak kok contoh-contoh film lain. Tapi nanti aku kehabisan memori. Terus sinematografi yang jelas banget udah berkembang. Dan otak-otak dan penulis modern seperti Ernest, yang di Lawrence penulisnya Yang Hilang Dalam Cinta, sama film Jatuh Cinta seperti di film-film Grade One, Ginantri S. Nur, sorry kalau salah sebut namanya, direktur dan penulis 2 Garis Biru dan I Can Share, film Netflix juga, really good. Aku bisa jujur dan bilang kalau sekarang aku bisa menantikan film-film romance Indonesia yang nanti suatu saat akan muncul di Sundance. But to be honest, kita udah punya Joko Anwar untuk itu. And finally, we reach the last trope, Destiny. Out of all the tropes, it's probably the one I enjoy the most personally. But it's not really because I believe in it or anything of the like. Quite the opposite, in fact. It's because I find the hilarity and the naivete in it. Because this is definitely the most outlandish and fantasized out of all the tropes. The trope that everyone always dreamt of themselves going through one day. As if everybody in this world had some sort of moral right to receive and to reciprocate this feeling. And by knowingly naming it destiny, as if it was some sort of inexorable external force that drives our lives into finding someone who we can find comfort in. It's not that I don't like people who believe that they found love through destiny or the like, but the whole sentiment of the feeling makes everything that is exciting about love to be, disingenuous and unearned. I get that the whole appeal of believing in destiny is that you are paired with someone who is perfect for you. But as I said before, people drift away from each other, and ultimately I don't believe that there is quite one person who would continuously be the one for you. People change, people drift, of course. There are exceptions to the rule where people stuck together through the thick and thin, and they change together, sometimes for the good, and sometimes for the bad, both conforming and sometimes comprehend their differences so they can stay together. But that is a rare dime in a sea of millions. These movies differ more in the will they, won't they territory for me, more so than any other trope. Because the outcome means to me more than just the usual inconsequential harmless reality of an artificial relationship fabricated for entertainment. The two outcomes of a potential relationship never mattered more outside of this trope. Eternal Sunshine, for example, is a movie I absolutely adore in terms of its presentation and use of sci-fi elements to explore the idea of destiny and its inevitability. That even through receiving this amazing gift where you are able to erase the memory of someone who you find to be plaguing your mind is not even enough to thwart away fate. Our psyches are futile devices, even through it all. Il Mare, a Korean movie, a great one, that plays a lot with the same idea. A guy and a girl living under the same house while simultaneously being 2 years apart from each other. I applaud their originality and creativity. But this concept and idea continues to leave a bitter taste in my mouth by continuing the same train of thought that Eternal Sunshine started. Also, The Adjustment Bureau, another story that involves predetermined fate precisely arranged by an all-knowing organization. Adapted from renowned sci-fi writer Philip K. Dick. Funny how that's a recurring theme here, huh? The story is about someone fighting against their predetermined fate. But in doing so, it only supplements the idea that the characters believe the partner they are fighting for now are the ones they are believed to be destined to be with in the first place. And there are just so many more examples where the destiny trope continues this rotten train of thought that I couldn't stop. But sometimes a movie would come out and the opposite would happen, as it did for me with Past Lives. I'm sorry, I know this video took a turn into a Past Lives review, but I don't care. This makes sense. Just let me get to it. Maybe it is just a me problem, and that I haven't really looked for movies that gave me the exact feeling Past Lives did. And what is that feeling, you ask me? Nothing. Beautiful, serene, nothing. This movie exemplifies the idea out. I have a many problem with silence and its detrimental effects to my mental health, as I've spoken about in my previous existential horror video. And even though I can be at peace with me avoiding silence entirely, it has also taken over my social life as well. Hanging out with friends, families, or sometimes even loved ones. I know for a fact that I just couldn't really ever shut the fuck up. Be it the uncomfortable silence, awkward pauses, unanswered questions left hanging in the air, I just couldn't really bear the absence of meaningful conversation. But oh my god, did this movie really hammered home the importance of all that. Never have I imagined seeing such an effective portrayal of what chemistry between two people, with so little words said, but with so many unspoken words that stand between a couple who are so clearly deeply in love. The long stares, the visible deep thoughts, and the helpless smile that always seem to spread across their faces whenever they stare at each other for a bit too long. I know there are many movies where these examples are used previously. For example, the record store scene in Before Sunrise, the stairwell scene in the movie Love. What really made the specific message click for me was really because of how mature the story is in the way it's trying to deliver its message. And of course, the soundtrack. Give my props to Chris Bear and Daniel Rosen, who I didn't know even soundtracked the film. When the movie started, I knew I was already in for another all-timer of soundtrack, but I almost jumped out of my chair when the end credit rolls and those two beautiful bastards came up in the end credits. I've only just recently discovered Chris Bear, and I've been overplaying Ready, Able, and Three Rings straight into my top Spotify songs 2022 and 2023. And I know they are in some sort of hiatus right now because the lead singer has apparently become a therapist. Good for you, Ed. Of course I wish them well, but now I can be at peace knowing I can still hear Chris Bear's raucous rhythms and Daniel Rosen's discordant guitar melodies for years to come in more movies I'm sure I will love. Back to why this movie broke me so much. It's because I just adored the direction the story went. As the line from the movie said, and I quote,
"I just can't compete. Childhood sweethearts who reconnect 20 years later only to realize they were meant for each other. In the story, I would be the evil white American husband standing in the way of destiny. This is what you pictured for yourself. Laying in bed in some tiny apartment in the East Village with some Jewish guy who writes books.
It would be so easy for past lives to do so. But no, it was never about the conflict between the characters. It's always been about turning the whole destiny trope entirely on its head. Call me sentimental or cheesy, but when the movie started and completely nailed the portrayal of childhood nostalgia, I couldn't help but instantly root for Nora and Haesung. And that was it. That was all that it took for me to root the characters. And that was the moment it clicked for me. No overbearing monologue that I previously thought would be necessary to show how much a person can love someone else. And that wondrous feeling continued throughout the movie. Barring the bar scene, there wasn't much said between Haesung and Nora. They gave out details about their lives, sure, but not for a single moment did they talk about their feelings towards each other. Because they didn't need to. Everything unspoken had already been said in their imaginary conversations whenever they stared deeply into each other's eyes. Pure, unaltered chemistry. Nothing. It's all down to Celine Song's clear understanding of boundaries and such well-realized characters. After watching interviews with the cast and Celine Song herself, it made a whole lot of sense when I found out that this story is actually based on her experience.
Past Lives is a movie that I was inspired by this moment in my life.
And the use of Inyon as the explanation of why their chemistry alone is enough to propel Haesung across the world to simply see Nora for one more time. The complicated justification of one's selfishness to simply ask Nora to leave Arthur behind and just go along with fate. I'll revisit Past Lives in a different video, and I'll talk more about the specific story beats and character actions and the use of Inyon that moves me so much. All that setup for only the movie ending the way it did. It just gave me the most mixed concoction of emotional whiplash I have ever felt in a film. Thanks, Celine. And it gave me such an epiphanic moment, you know? A huge sense of relief that I may have viewed chemistry or the lack of it completely wrong this whole time. Finally, for once in my life, I can let go of the first-hand active responsibility to finally achieve, I hope, one's want for comfort. But that is just the reality I have to let myself believe in. The rewards of trust, belief. It's just a matter if someone has the guts to jump into someone else's arms, and having that belief that they will catch you in return. But that's just it. The successes and failures. The euphoria and anguish. The emphatic fights or earned silence. That is what really makes us human. Fuck sentimentality and making ourselves think that you'll find love through the unyielding powers of destiny. We already submit our lives too much in the hands of chaos. And making excuses, or to think that one of humanity's rawest emotion is out of our hands as well? Well, I think that thought is just a bit too heavy to bear if I want to sleep tonight. Why the fuck did I think this would be lighthearted again?